Hello, guys. Catholic moment. Since we're in the season of Lent, it's good to talk about what sin is. According to the Bible and according to church tradition, there are two kinds of sin. There's venial sin, and there's mortal sin. Now, venial sin is, well, before I even go into that, a lot of my fellow brothers and sisters that are not Catholic don't think there's a real difference. That like stealing a little piece of gum from a store at the age of 11 is just as sinful as raping and killing a child or something. So, not all, some. Of course, this flies against reason, the face of reason. What is worse and what is not as bad. But the idea is that in regards to sin, no sin is tolerable, and God hates all sin. However, there is a sin that is deadly, and Scripture is clear on that. Venial sin kind of works like this. What it does is it wounds our relationship with God, but it is still restorable through a good confession and an act of contrition. Now, honestly, even in a venial, in the sense of a venial sin, though they should be confessed. You can; those are the kind of sins that you can definitely go straight to God and ask forgiveness for. From you know, from the whole idea of the whole thing we spoke about in regarding confession, about why can't we just go straight to God? Well, a venial sin is a kind of sin that you can really kind of go straight to God for it. Though it would still be good to still, you know, mention it in your next actual confession. Mortal sin is far more different. Again, it's scriptural. It's in the Bible. It's in the letter of James, actually, where James talks about sin that leads to death. And that is where the title of mortal sin comes from. Mortis, from the Latin root. Mortis, meaning death, muerte in Spanish. So, it derives from that same root word. So the idea is that, there is sin that does lead to death. And usually, and based on church teaching, that is any of the Ten Commandments: adultery, stealing, killing, um, coveting, sloth, the deadly sins that are mentioned in Scripture, like sloth, like lust, like wrath, like gluttony, stuff like that. Those are the real uh, things. Those sins not only wound our relationship with God, but it literally cuts off the lifeline. It cuts off the supernatural grace that God has given us. Though we don't deserve it, though we cannot earn it, it cuts it completely. It's like a line that just gets snipped, and we lose our spiritual life. We lose our ability to be not only heaven bound, but if we persist, if we choose to continue to live in this kind of state, we start losing our, not our intelligence, but our moral understanding of what right and wrong is. It kind of like starts to decay over time. I've seen this happen with people I even know. They knew what was right and wrong, and because they've left God, they've moved away from Him, and they've decided to live their own lives and their own paths. They now don't think that those certain things that they considered to be sinful in the past to be sinful anymore. They don't even, now it's your opinion. Again with the opinions. It's hard. It's very hard, guys and gals. To see that happen to people that you care about. Um, but the truth is that as time goes on, mortal sin does invade your soul like a cancer and kills it. And the ultimate end to that is, unfortunately and sadly and painfully, eternal damnation. Um, Again, God hates all forms of sin, both venial and mortal. But it's the mortal that needs to be confessed. Mortal sin needs to go to be confessed to a priest in the sacrament of confession in order for it to be relieved. When that happens, God's supernatural grace comes in again and takes up residence in our souls, and we continue our journey towards heaven. Okay? But the only way that forgiveness can be effective is that if we ask for it. You see, God respects our will and our freedom of choice to ask or not ask for forgiveness for sins that we have committed, whether they're venial or mortal. It's just the mortal ones are the real, those are the ones that can kill us spiritually in the long run. Venial, yeah, they can damage us. And one thing that's damaging about venial is that it can, if not confessed and if not looked at and observed and reflected on, it can actually lead us to a deeper sin, mortal sin. That's one thing that's one aspect of venial sin that's not a good thing at all. Nothing about sin is good, period. So the next time you, oh, let me just speak for myself. The next time I screw up, basically, I want to make sure that whatever sin I've committed against God, I need to reflect on it. I need to confess it to God. I always confess my sins to God first, and then I, when I get the chance later in the week, I go to the sacrament of confession just to kind of put a cap on it. That it's always awesome to do that, and it really is an amazing thing to experience and to go through. So, I just wanted to put out that thing with you all because you've probably heard it. What mortal sin is, what venial sin is. It is important for us as Catholics to understand the difference between the two, so that we can continue to die to ourselves by denying the sin that tries to destroy your soul, so that we can continue on our path to holiness and our path to the true place that we are meant to be, which is in God's presence forever. This was a moment.